Hey, it's Felicia Pride, head honey and honey child, and host of It's Good Over Here. Many of you may know, but I started as an author before transitioning to writing for the screen. And all my life, I wanted to write romance, which I've been able to do in my film and TV career. Shout out to Really Love and Tender and Look Back at It in Bel Air. But I never got a chance to do so as an author until now. I'm so excited to announce the upcoming release of my first romance novella entitled Come Close. It's also Honey Child's first foray into publishing fiction. You can pre-order Come Close now on Amazon. Here's a quick synopsis. After years toiling in Hollywood, Amaya Ellis is finally directing her first feature film in her hometown, unexpectedly reuniting her with Kyrie Tate, her high school sweetheart, whom she hasn't seen in decades. He wasn't just the one, he was the standard. But ambitions, dreams, and the world got in the way, and their relationship fell apart. They lost touch, moved on, or so they thought. As fate brings them together, they relive their own movie of their past love and find themselves creating a new story. Hey, honeys. It is nothing like becoming friends with someone who inspired you and you looked up to. I am so excited about today's guest, Danyel Smith. Not only is she an incredibly accomplished journalist, she's one of my friends, and she is a person that continues to inspire me. I love the way that she talks about her ambition, her career, and being unapologetic about it, right? She's an incredible badass. And we also get into a new adventure that she has taken on. So you'll have to listen to find out. Let's get into it. Welcome, honeys in training, and all of those who love us. I'm Felicia Pride, writer, filmmaker, founder of media and production company Honey Child, where we tell stories that speak to Black women of a certain age. And you are tuning in to our new thing, It's Good Over Here. It's Good Over Here is your ticket to the delicious adventures in Honeyland. It's a celebration of how good it can get on the other side of 40 across career, life, and love. In each episode, we offer inspiration and insight on aging boldly because, honey, it is good over here. So buckle up. Let's dig in. And when I say today's guest needs no introduction, I really mean it. Danyel Smith is a storyteller with a capital S, honey. She's an award-winning journalist, podcast creator and host, documentarian, commentator, and historian who has been chronicling and advocating for the culture for 3 decades now. I'm going to say that again, 3 decades now. When she was named editor-in-chief of Vibe magazine in 1997, she became the first woman and the first Black person to have that job, as well as the first woman to run a national music magazine. She's the author of 2 novels and the memoir Shine Bright, a very personal history of Black women in pop. Danyel has had a fascinating journey and has always done things in her own time and on her own terms. And today, we're going to dive into her adventures in life, love, and career as a honey. Welcome, Danyel.
Hey, Felicia.
I'm super excited. I'm so glad that you're coming to bless us with all of your experiences and wisdom and insight.
Oh, I hope I have all that now.
You do. I'm trying to remember when we first met. I do remember way back in the day going to a reading of More Like Wrestling. And I want to say it was at McNally Jackson in Brooklyn.
Wow.
Way back in the day.
That was a while ago.
That was a long time ago.
But thank you for coming out.
Yes. Because I actually collect books signed by Black women authors. So I remember you signed my book, so I added it to my collection. I wanted to be this like badass journalist and covering hip hop. So you were one of the women journalists who I looked up to at that time. So it was so good to also then see you writing books, and I was just very inspired.
That makes me feel really good. I really am always amazed when there is another woman that I admire so much who says, I want it to be you, or I admire you so much. I'm like, let's just allow this to be a mutual admiration society.
I receive that, honey.
Yes,
I receive that. You have been doing the work as a journalist and advocating for the culture since like the 80s. Way back, going back to your days in Oakland, working for newspapers and publications. Yes. How have you remained in the game? What has kept you going?
Probably love for our culture is the main thing. My first real and true published piece was like the very second to last month of 1989.
Wow.
And
And what piece? What was it about?
Why was it called Rap in the Bay Area?
Well, we knew what the piece was about. It got to the point.
Right, right. I was writing for the San Francisco Bay Guardian, and I had been writing about like this and that, like little things that interns will write about, like go to the olive oil convention and say what that was like. But there was such a vibrant music community in Oakland at that time, and really there's been a vibrant music community in Oakland amongst Black people since forever, because I wasn't sure at that time that I was going to be a writer or a journalist. That's when I said, okay, so this is it. Like, I found the thing, not that I just like, or the thing that I can do, or even the thing that I can do well. I have found the thing that I actually feel a calling toward, and I still feel it.
That's amazing. I love that. And so what's so interesting though is that, you know, media has changed over the years, but you have been able to embrace new forms of storytelling, embrace new forms of cultural criticism. How have you, you know, from podcasting to your newsletter, how have you been able to embrace those new forms? How have you been able to pivot when necessary and still keep to your mission?
Well, first thing I should say is I don't want to act to anyone like it's been easy or that I've just been sort of tiptoeing through the tulips. It's been amazing and fun. It's also taken a lot of audacity, and it's taken a lot of me paying attention to and admitting to my ambition of being comfortable with like getting after things, getting comfortable with wanting things. And when I say things, I mean levels of excellence. I like and have always, and it's served me as a journalist, I like learning about what's new. I like knowing, so what is artificial intelligence? 10 years ago. So the podcasting thing, like what is this? Because I'm a writer and a journalist, but I also function in media as a leader. I often have people that report to me or people that I'm on teams with. I like to be the smart girl in the room. I do. And I like when people younger than me, when we can trade information. So I like to be up on what's going on with the things that matter the most in my generation, but I also like to know what's going on. I hate to call them the kids because they grown, but I like knowing what's going on with the younger people on my teams. That trade of information, it always, to me, it makes me happy and it keeps me sharp.
This idea of getting comfortable with your ambition, what does that require? Because I think a lot of us as honeys and as just Black women, you know, sometimes are scared of what we actually want. We're scared to admit it. We're scared to, as you say, go after it. How did you get comfortable with your ambition? And how did you get comfortable with going after the things that you want?
I wanted, from a very young adult age, to do something that was going to give me some happiness and some security. And also, I was maybe it's because I went to Catholic school and we had to do community service to graduate. Maybe it's because I didn't have all of the mean nuns. I actually had some of the good ones. And they inspired me very much, the idea of being in service to something. So journalism gave me all of those things. And I did not want to be just another journalist. I wanted to be someone who did it well. I wanted people to better understand some part of Black music or Black culture after they had participated in something that I created. And I realized that I was going to, this gets so overused, I almost hesitate to say it, but I wanted to own that. Okay, so I had not graduated from college by the time I became the editor-in-chief of Vibe. Some people don't know.
You went back to school in what, mid-30s?
Yes, absolutely.
Which is quite an adventure.
I don't know what I was doing, but I knew that it was something that I had missed out on because of the crazy things of youth, the crazy things of being broke. And I just got tired of saying it, especially to younger people, especially to younger Black women and women of color, to say they would say, well, where did you graduate from? And you have that. Well, actually, I didn't graduate from college. And I had a whole speech of, well, I got accepted to UC Berkeley, and all of the things that you do, but that gets old. And so I just wanted to go back to school, and that required ambition on my part. It required commitment.
Sounds like maybe some humbling as well.
It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. But I was at a point in my life where I said, listen, I need to take some time off anyway. Oh, because I was not going to night school. I was going back to school.
Oh, you was school.
I was at school.
On campus.
I was on campus.
In the lunch at the cafeteria.
Eating at the diner on the corner from the school. Like, I was doing those things because I wanted to be able to say that I had graduated. I wanted to know the things that people would assume I knew from that. I wanted to read the books that when other people mentioned them, I would say I could know what they were talking about. And I was missing some of those beats in a like a classical kind of education. I had the education of the streets, honey. Like, there was no problem with that.
And it served you well. You rose the ranks at Vine. Yes, it served you very well.
Absolutely. I don't want to play myself down, but there were still things that I wanted to know. There were books that I hadn't read. Had I read as much Shakespeare as I wanted to? Had I read as much Toni Morrison as I wanted to? I was a very self-educated girl. That's probably why, I was in bookstores all the time, reading things and talking to people, and always, girl, if there was a fellowship to get, I would get it because I wanted to be back in school. But at a certain point, I just said, let me take responsibility for this. And I want more. I don't want to be just the person that's pitching ideas and stories. I want to be the person to whom those ideas and stories are being pitched. That was a big moment where I had to claim my ambition and say, if that's what I want, what are the things that I have to do to be that person, and do those things?
I've come to a point where I've had to accept, there are certain things that I actually want, and it's scary. Like, I want to be a showrunner. Like, that's a scary thing. So I just love that you talk about even when you felt some inadequacy, you still were like, I'm claiming this ambition for myself.
Yes.
And you continue to claim this ambition for yourself. So we talked a little bit about this, but you mentioned, young people, because they talk about the aunties and the honeys and all of that. How do you mentioned this sort of exchange of information, but how do you stay relevant, particularly covering current culture, covering pop culture? How do you keep your finger on the pulse of things? And how do you still sort of maintain your own interests at this age while covering the culture? Acting on your ideas is a form of self-love. And when I decided to write the Creative Comeback Workbook and Journal, it was with you in mind. Storytellers with stories inside of you that you need to get out into the world. But life, fear, uncertainty has a way of leaving us stuck. But no more. It's time to reclaim our creative practice and get unstuck. The Creative Comeback Workbook and Journal can help you get back on creative track. 30 days of dynamic prompts, exercises to stimulate creativity, alongside motivational quotes, journal pages, and more. If you're ready to create again, get your copy of the Creative Comeback Workbook and Journal today at creativecomeback.com. That's creativecomeback.com. Because it's never too late to become the artist you always wanted to be.
Well, one, I'm keeping a promise to myself. When I was young and coming into writing about music, one thing that I literally could not stand was when the older generation really tried to act like what I was doing or what I was interested in was whack. I was told 4,000 million trillion times that the Black music of the 1990s, if you can imagine, our golden era.
Right.
Yes, it's problematic, but it's the golden era of hip hop and rhythm and blues. I was being told that it just really wasn't that good and it wasn't that important, and that the reason it was selling was for, whack reasons, and hip hop was going to die and it wasn't smart. I was constantly being told this.
That's so wild when you think about it now.
That's
Like,
what was being said. I made in my mind back then that should I be so lucky to grow old in this business, to get old in this business, to become a mature person in this business? I don't want to say that to the younger people, whatever they're listening to. And Lord knows, I always bring up my nephew in these conversations because I'm listening to my nephew sometimes and I'm like, what is he listening to? And why is he playing it this loudly in my home in the day,
right,
when the sun is out? Why? So I did what I wish people had asked me to do. I said, what is that? Who is that? Auntie. I don't even think he listens to this person anymore. He said, it's Young Blue. I said, who is Young Blue? Auntie wants to know. He just got back. He was playing. Have you been to Dubai, Auntie? I said, I have not, but I want to. I want to go to Dubai. And he started telling me about Young Blue, and I started listening to Young Blue. And from Young Blue, I started listening to NBA Youngboy, who I have negative, no non-business to be listening to NBA Youngboy.
But it's that curiosity, it sounds like us remaining curious and...
But what it does is that then when I get a call from the place I write the most for now for the New York Times Magazine, and they say, well, as these meetings will go, I'm blessed to have these meetings. Well, what are you thinking about these days, Danyel? And I could say, well, you know what's interesting is my nephew got me interested in listening to NBA Youngboy, and I did some research and I realized just like the relationship that he has with his family and with his mother and with his kids and with the mothers of his children. I think there's something to talk about within that, just about like modern day motherhood, especially coming from someone who is not a mother. He's someone I would like to think about, listen to, and learn about, and maybe include him in a piece about what it's like to be a mother or not to be a mother in this era. And I can see people on the call saying, so this WITCH knows anything about NBA? And yes, she does. Because I'm curious. I like to know. I've always liked the interns the best on any staff that I've ever been on. They know the business. They know the beats. They know who's about to get hired, fired, who wears the best clothes, the best sneakers. They know all of it. And these are the kind of things that I have always found wildly interesting. Culture is not superficial to me. What are the cool sneakers right now is not a superficial thing to know about. One, it's still a billion dollar business. It's where Black people lead. And I've been told this so often, again, in the before times, that these kind of things weren't important. What kind of drum machine somebody's using is not important. Like, all these things are wildly important and wildly interesting. So it's not even hard for me, frankly, to pivot or to remain interested in things. I do it because it's fun to me. It sparks me. It makes me happy to know.
Like, I think the fun piece is what we kind of forget about in the work and forget about in our careers. But the fact that you're still having fun is a big deal.
Yes. I mean, why not? Like, there's been so much tragedy in Black music forever. It's so much heartbreak. It's not as if what I cover is just all the time a joy. But you know what? A lot of the time it is. And it's like, I chose that. And that was part of the reason. Part of the reason was to know it better, to present it with rigor and grace and beauty and all of those things that I try to do. But a lot of it was because on any given Thursday or Friday night, you could literally dance and sweat through your hair for 6 hours straight. I know you know that we have had those types of nights and days. And you could just be at a show. I have been at shows where, like, I thought I would faint, literally, and I'm not a fainting type of sister, but where I really was so outside of myself with happiness and around other people that knew the same song that I know, and we're all singing it together. And this is the life I chose. You have to pay the dues on that life, right? Absolutely. I've made some ridiculous mistakes in my life.
Like what?
Ooh, probably. And I say this without hate for him, but getting married the first time.
And how old were you?
Girl, a child bride.
I think about that now. I mean, there are definitely successful relationships, marriages where people got married at 21 and 22. But I'm like, I didn't know nothing about myself at 21 and 22. I knew nothing. Like, I can't imagine the responsibility and the care that's required to get married at that age and it work out.
I must have stayed married for 8 or 9 years. I always tell people, I was going to say I made a lot of mistakes in my life, but a mistake that I didn't make was my chosen profession. But like marriage at a young age, at least for me, I was running away from something. And the older women at that time in my life tried to tell me.
Oh.
They tried to tell me, and I knew everything though.
They're like, that poor baby. We told her. Like, we told her.
And that's why it was so hard to leave though. Because I have that thing in my personality, and please don't have this, whoever's listening to this, please let this go if you can. This thing of wanting so hard to have made the right decision that you stay in something longer. It could be a partner or a job. But you just don't want to tell people that you made the mistake.
Yeah. And I see it a lot where it's like, this has to work out, because if this doesn't work out, this is the identity I told myself for so long. Like, it has to be right. It has to, or this person has to be who I think they are, because I poured so much time into it. Yeah. That's tough.
I have done that, and I've wasted minutes, I've wasted weeks, I've wasted years. Oof. And you don't get none of that back.
You really don't.
You don't.
I mean, I think that's the one thing that I've realized on this other side. People are like, you have 40 summers left, or whatever they try to say, how to sort of quantify your life. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, like, you realize that you don't get that time back.
There's going to be missteps. There's going to be turns that, you wish you had taken, or, things that you wish you had done differently. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the unnecessary commitment to what you know is not right for you.
Honey, preach.
Because of worry of what other people are going to think or say, or worry even about what you're going to think about yourself. I didn't leave my first husband as soon as I probably should have. Part of it was just a fear of failure also. Oof. That I said this was going to happen. Really, I stood up in front of everybody and made promises to God even that I was going to see this thing through.
I don't think we talk enough about how traumatic divorce can be. Because just that point of you saying I stood before God, like, that's deep. It is. And for you to be like, did I lie to God? Yes. That's deep.
Or how is God going to be looking at me right now?
Right.
When I tell him, I know I said that, but I'm not doing that no more. My feeling is now God is like, ooh, girl, good.
Finally.
Divorce is, it's shattering. Even when you know it's right. People, at least for me, and I've been married now, my husband and I, my second husband and I have just celebrated our 19th anniversary.
Wow, time flies, honey.
And it's its own journey that probably needs its own podcast, miniseries, and everything else, like everybody's marriage, really. But when I had to tell people that my identity in my 20s was that I was a young wife. And I liked it.
It's so interesting because you had this career going on, right?
Yes.
And you had this ambition and you're working your way up.
Yes.
Why do you think you felt the need to have the wife piece of it? Because that feels you were doing a lot of non-traditional things.
Yes.
That feels very traditional.
I was looking for a family, I think. I'm blessed to have the best sister. Like, you all could bring your sisters in here. All of you. And I'm sure they're nice girls, but they're not my sister. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
my sister is the number one best sister.
Yeah.
Queen, princess, sister of all sisters. Like, there's no one better. But really, outside of my sister, our family is a bit, like, upside down. So I was really looking for stuff that I wasn't getting. And I found it in my first husband. I found it in his family, who are their own like wild selves. But to me at that time, they just looked tight and cool. And like I was going to be a part of something different, even if not better. And so I was running towards that. Also, I married a very creative guy. He was a photographer and still is, and a good one. And I was very much in love with the idea of these two creative people getting together as much as I was in love with him.
My therapist calls that out for me a lot, just like my ability to fall in love with the idea of something or someone more than the reality of what it is. And I had to start separating the two. Like, oh, this is the idea. This is not, she's like, but that's not what reality looks like. You telling me some shit that this is not how the reality looks like. And I was like, oh.
But you know what I think? I mean, we have in common, you and I, that we're both storytellers.
Yeah.
And so I think it's quite easy for us to believe in the story.
Child, the fairy tale, the story, the happy ever after, the happy ending, the midpoint. This is the midpoint, but we're going to get through this.
Yes.
We might not.
We might not. And maybe this isn't my story.
Right.
Maybe this is cute for somebody else.
Yeah.
I always say about my first, he's a great guy, just not my guy.
Yeah.
When I think about the devastation, first of all, I think that there's something to being devastated in your 20s because it's new. I literally could cry thinking about that era where you don't really, at least I didn't, my heart had not been broken like that. Like even like in my 30s, which was my 20s for me, because that's when that's when I was in these streets, was 30 to 38. Did my heart get broken? Yes. Am I still mooning about it right now? Absolutely not.
What would Danyel now tell Danyel in her 20s?
Well, one, I would say not to get married, to not even think about it until I was 28. That would be the first thing. If we're talking about relationships, that is what I would say. I would also say, stop thinking so much about relationships with men. As you mentioned, I was doing things that required so many arguments with so many men to get them done. Just going out by myself was I so often was in explanation about that. I'm going. Well, where are you going? Well, I'm going to see Run DMC. Well, where's Run DMC playing? At the Coliseum. Well, how are you getting there? Why are you in my business about what I'm doing and I'm grown and paying my own way through life?
Yeah.
But even to go out alone or to just, I remember when I first moved to New York, I was covering shows. So I would literally have to be at a show by, say, if the show starts at 8, I got to be there by like 7:30 because that's how I was. And then I'm taking notes, and then I would have to come home, write the review, because I was writing for a daily at that time, write the review, be up, at dawn for a copy edit, and then do the same thing the next night. It was the best training of my life. And I was going to all different types of shows, from Neil Diamond to Johnny Mathis to Naughty by Nature.
Wow.
It was so fantastic. It was disliked by anybody that I was married to or dating.
I just feel like, it's one thing to be an ambitious woman. It's also another thing to be an ambitious woman in a shiny career.
Okay, first of all, I'm still in shiny career from you because I'm literally, it's in my purse and I'm leaving with it.
Now, do you think that that's why it makes, like, you and Elliot make sense, because he gets it?
He gets it on most days.
Being in the same industry, and
it was one of the things I found most attractive about him.
Yeah.
I knew Elliot for years before we ever dated. And people often say, well, did you guys have that secret, like, energy between you? And the answer is absolutely not. It's just no.
Your honesty. Yeah.
It's just
like you never thought you would see him around, but you would never thought like, oh, that's gonna be my husband.
Girl, the thought, girl, I could like, girl, give me some water. Like, no, it wasn't. It was no, but then it hit me with a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
I had assigned him a personality
just by like seeing him around and knowing of him, and
I had assigned him a personality that bears some resemblance to his actual personality, but not that much. So there was that fascination that provided a lot of the romance of just feeling like I'd gone into my dating with Elliot feeling like I knew him, and I would just be sitting across the table from him going, okay, wait, so you have brothers?
Wait, you really just was like,
I just made up him because he acts like an only child. and I see, I'm like, so you have whole big brothers that are grown as you. And so, but the thing that I think has helped our relationship over the years and provided a lot of its most intensity and arguments is the fact that we have essentially held the same jobs in the same industry, both love to write. Elliot doesn't write as much as he used to, but he still does it and still takes a great deal of pride in it. And he's still excellent at it. But it's never been easy to be a Black woman in this industry. I actually have something coming out that I'm more vulnerable in than I have been, which is a benefit of getting older. I think writing Shine Bright put me in that place where I had to be told that my story is as valuable and as important and as meaningful as the stories that I write about other people, which is what I've spent so much of my career doing and loving to do and still do. But sometimes I have to claim my space in the culture. But one of the things that I wrote was there is no safe place for an ambitious Black woman.
Woo, child.
There isn't.
That hit my heart.
It's so wrong. It's so awful. There's no safe space for really any ambitious woman. But there's really no safe space for an ambitious Black woman. It's just like, it's not allowed. It's so disliked.
Especially when you keep up that ambition and that ambition continues to grow even as you get older. Like the dreams continue and you keep going after them. There's a resentment. I have found that there's a resentment from folks that like, damn, you still dreaming and damn, you still going after your dreams.
And it's exhausting because folks are mad about it. Like actively, not passively. Actively mad. And when you say that to me, what you just said, which is certain folks having the energy of or even saying out loud, girl, you still dreaming? You're still like wanting things? You still see things in front of you? Okay, so let me just answer, if you don't mind, Felicia, for both of us. Yes, we do.
Speaking of Shine Bright, a very personal history of Black women in pop. You make the case that Black female artists, mostly of them are honeys, are the foundation of American pop music. And also, this is a very personal book. So this was an adventure that you embarked upon after 40, a major adventure of writing about yourself in relationship to these women.
Yes.
I'm curious about what you took away from these women and even that process of writing about yourself in this way.
Well, let's start with the women. And I'll say that I took from the process what I take from the process every time I speak to a Black woman. Even sitting right here with you, one, is just a gift. I love being around talented Black people, but talented Black women, it's so fortifying.
Yeah.
It's fortifying.
Yeah, that's a great word.
Right? It just really is. And so I took that. I take strength in seeing the journey. The up, the down, what people tried to take from them, what they snatched back, what the fights were like, not just that they had fights, but what was the fight about What was it about? What was the conversation, Gladys Knight, that you had with your mother that made you decide, yes, Gladys Knight and the Pips would be a good idea? Finding that kind of stuff out, talking like that kind of stuff, it brings me life and joy. And again, I feel it's a service to give Black women in music the credit that they are due, that we're due. And then with myself, I mean, that was a battle. I wish I could make it pretty. Like, I had no desire. When I sold that book was supposed to be kind of an encyclopedia of Black women in music.
Wow. How did that change happen?
Midway through. Because I wasn't finishing it. And my agent and my editor, Aisha Pandey and Chris Jackson. Yes. They were both in their separate ways, basically calling me on my BS. Because I like being in everybody else's business. I want to know Whitney Houston's story. I want to know Simone Biles, SZA. I want to know Usher. I want to know his business. I want to know Jalen Hurts' business. Like, I want to tell his story. How did he get from Texas to becoming but you want to talk about me? Come on now.
Now, was that something that you also had to, I think you kind of alluded to this, but like, I'm worthy of.
Yes. I from the outside looking into my life, it looks super exciting. I go to all of the things. I still go out. That's another thing that keeps me happy and sharp and in the know. I go out. I go out to shows. I go out to award shows, concerts, big shows, small shows, games. I do all of that kind of thing. It looks exciting. You can go through Getty, and there I am, and on the red carpet from the olden days till now. But if you're actually me, I have struggled with issues of worth since I could articulate it. And before.
Talk about that.
Yes,
talk about that.
Right?
Yeah.
Because right at this moment.
Still, it's ongoing.
And it's so painful. It's so like self-stifling, right? And also it's so hard for anybody to talk you out of it.
Yeah.
You can, as I have paid all of the best therapists, taken the antidepressants, ridden my bike. Like, what you want me to do? I will do some jumping jacks for you if you need it. Like, just trying to prove to myself that I'm worthy of interest, let alone love. It's awful. I fight it daily. Why would anyone want to read this from me? Why would anybody want to? You mentioned More Like Wrestling, my first novel. It was written, it's a semi-autobiographical novel, but really it's just a memoir in fictional form.
And was that a defense mechanism?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I should have written a memoir when I was writing More Like Wrestling. And I love More Like Wrestling with my whole heart, and it stands on its own. But if there's something missing from it, that is what it is. Is more truth. Is more truth. And so Shine Bright allowed me to tell more truth about myself, which then allowed me to tell more truth about the women whose stories I was trying to tell, whether it was Ella Fitzgerald, Aretha Franklin, Mariah Carey, whoever I happen to be speaking about at the moment. It involves more risk for myself and for, frankly, my relationships with those women, if they're still here.
I love just the connections that you're making between you and them, and like finding your story through their stories I just love that so much.
I'm so happy that you say that because, one, it was hard to do.
Yeah.
And it's so quick for me to say, I love music. Music is my life. I love music. But then somebody like yourself will say, but why? And there's reasons.
Yeah.
And they're not all pretty. Music literally saved my life. And not just in the way that it can at the parties that we talk about when a DJ saved my life and I'm like dancing
literally.
No, literally.
Yeah.
Nelly Cole saved the entirety of my life. Like, I wish somebody would have something bad to say about Natalie Cole. I'll fight you like we came from the same mother.
But that goes back to your point about the fact that culture is important. Like, this is not frivolous stuff. This is, culture and art, right? The way that we find ourselves, we understand the world around us, but literally how it saves us.
And when you are a sponge of a 7 or 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, if you're so lucky to be blessed to remain a sponge and an innocent at those ages, all of us are not.
Right.
I wasn't. To hear a voice that sounds loving, that is set to a sound that makes it very easy to remember, that's called a song. And some people really do have the gift of placing their emotion in that story over a sound that makes it easy to remember. So much so that we sing it ourselves. That is a life-saving gesture.
I love how you put that. Put it over a sound that we can remember. Yes. But the idea of voice and soothing, and depending on where you are in life, how that comfort.
It's comfort. It's all those words. It's inspiration. It starts conversations. I remember Natalie Cole had a song that was like, I have no plans for the future because he's not here at all. I used to sing that song like I was grown. And I was like 11.
I was feeling it.
I was just new. Because I have no plans for the future. And there was some other lyrics like, why should I comb my hair? Because I know he's not coming over anymore. Or, why should I keep right on living? I've lost my only reason for giving. And like my Aunt Victoria, who I'm so blessed to still have, she came in there. I was in her den, and she came into that den, and it was her album.
Wow.
She said, I never want to hear you sing that song again. I said, that's my song, though. That's my song. And she said, I don't like the way you're singing that. And there's never going to be any reason for you to talk about you have no plans for the future over somebody that you're supposed to be dating or is your boyfriend or something like that. I don't want to hear you singing that song like that anymore. And let me tell you how that has stayed with me.
That's deep on both sides. I'm no, but yes, but no, but
But it opened the conversation. Yeah. And I'm not saying I listened to that song forever after from that day. Wasn't nobody listening to my Auntie Vicky like that. Yeah. Of course, I'm going to listen to the song. That's a part of being a youngster with music. That's why it's so dangerous to the perceived like mainstream or older people, is because it does get in your heart. I still listen to it, but I heard what my aunt said, and it is true. Natalie was going through something. Natalie was struggling with drugs. She was struggling with how to live in the shadow of her father. Natalie was going through it. She put all that into that song. I responded to it. My aunt heard it, and it made her say something to me that matters, which is, you are always going to have plans for the future, man. Little girl.
Right.
You're always going to, and you're not going to let what somebody else does or doesn't do to you or for you change the fact that you have something in front of you always. And that has stayed with me always. And I don't mean to make a hard turn, but the reason that I'm about to get my driver's license is because of my Aunt Victoria right now.
First of all, I just have to say, I just love these connections between the women artists you love and the women in your life and in your own life. I just love those connections that you have and the role that music has played in your life.
It's very much that's my jam, and it's very much not just that's my jam.
Yeah.
I love, people say, how did you choose the women for Shine Bright, Danyel? And I say it is the music that I love, that my sister loves, the music that my mother loves and her sister loves, and the music that my grandmother loved and her sisters love. That is it. That's it.
Yeah.
What else? Where else am I going to be getting it from?
Right.
I
Right.
like the rap that I love because it samples the music
Mm-hmm.
of my
Yeah.
parents and my very young childhood. So it's like it's not just a song. It's
Right.
never just a song.
So, driver's license. This is a big adventure as a honey.
Yes.
And a few months ago, you added me to a group chat
Yes.
where you made the big announcement
So silly.
that you were going to learn how to drive,
Yes.
which I had no idea that you didn't know how to
'Cause I'll
drive.
be hiding it.
But what I loved, it was like the support that poured in
Oh, I loved it.
from all the people in the group chat. Were
Mhm.
like, we can't wait, we support you, all of that. So I'm curious, like you mentioned your Aunt Victoria, why now did you decide that it was time to get your driver's license, and what was holding you back?
So just to start with, I definitely was going to have you on that chat because one, just because I don't feel like we speak enough, and I feel like
Yeah.
it's a casual way to like have people in your life that you don't
Yeah.
always have that time or that, I wanted that. And I'm also not a big group chat starter, but I also wanted, I hate to admit when I need support or help. Ooh.
That is you are not alone. I'm like,
I
I know
hate
a
it.
lot of people,
Right?
a lot of honeys felt that. Oh, absolutely.
I hate it. And when you all would jump in and ask me how the class went or whatever, like it would really get me through it because I would make light of it, but it's very scary for me. I was in a car accident when I was 19. They hit the center divider on the freeway.
Ooh.
Between Oakland and Vallejo. I was at Vallejo General. All the skin came off my forehead. Like, it
Oh
was
my
just
gosh.
a horror. Broke my hand. Just like not as bad, obviously, as many other people's car accidents are, but it was a horrible car accident. And I was on my way to a wedding. I had on a white dress, so the blood was everywhere.
Ooh.
Just I shouldn't have had on a white dress because the bride is supposed to be wearing white. There's all kind of things. Like I always am like, if I hadn't worn the white dress, that was bad luck. Like all of this stuff was going through my head for the last 40 some odd years. And, I just woke up and I was tired of it. And also I wanted my freedom. I have made a whole thing in my life about like the quirkiness of me not driving. And it does somewhat run in my family. I was in the car with my mother when she learned to drive. My sister didn't have her driver's license until she was 26 or 27. But that wasn't it. I did not want to drive because I was scared from that accident.
I mean, that's very, very understandable.
But old and tired. I am a person that has gotten through life making promises to myself and not breaking them. Like I made the promise that I wasn't going to be negative about the music of younger people. I made the promise that when I was divorced from my first husband, that I was not going to allow that to keep me from falling in love again. I kept that. I had never made a promise about driving. And I think that was a mistake. So I decided to correct, not overcorrect, hopefully, but I just decided that it was time. And I knew also that, we get to this big age, and I do not want to be at a bigger one regretting. Like, I just do not. So I was like, let me do what millions of people have done before me and take a driving lesson. I took the test and passed the written. Then I took the actual driving test in the car, and I did not pass.
Ooh.
And then I got caught up in writing a story, the one that's coming out.
So how did you feel when you didn't pass the driving test? Because I know
like a loser. I got in the chat and told, and I felt like a loser. And that's when I was like, why did I start a chat? Now I have to announce to everybody that I'm a loser. And everybody was so sweet and good. But I was so grateful to have travel in front of me. I went to the Philippines, and then I was working on this story. But my Aunt Victoria hit me up because she's in the chat. So she called me and said, how's everything? I said, it's good, Auntie Vicky, it's good. So what's going on with your driver's license? It's the same one that told me about Natalie Cole when I was a child.
Right.
What's going on with your driver's license? I said, no. I had all the excuses together. She said, I think you should come up to Ventura. I was like, I need to get up there because that's where she is. I said, I need to get up there. She said, yep. You can come up here. You can bring your husband if you want to. I don't think you should because we're going to be busy with getting you together for this driver's test. You're not going to be driving she did let me practice one time in her Benz. She said, we're not going to be practicing anymore in my Benz, but you can drive.
Love that she had to make sure you knew that.
Off the rip. Like, don't get it twisted. Right. She said, but they have a second car. She could drive the Volkswagen. And she said, and I think you should take the test up here.
Our aunties that pull us together.
She got me, and she was like, I was coming up with dates or whatever. She said, I'll send you some dates that work for. She's retired.
I love that.
And so this is where my story is right now, and I'm going to get my license.
Yes, I love that.
I'm so excited about it because it's so scary. Girl, I went to a Black-owned driving school. They just had no sympathy. Like, they don't care. They just were like, I was like, are we going on the freeway? Yes, ma'am. And I'm like,
that's how you go and learn.
That is abuse. And I would tell them, but it's been such an experience. And if I've learned anything from it so far, not even having my true driver's license in my hand yet, but being super close, is that it is awful, but so what? Like, and what? So like, what? It is awful. It's been so awful to do so many things that I've tried to do. And then you get there and it's like, and so what? Now I will literally, after my Auntie Vicky gets me together in the Volkswagen, I will be able to say, you know what? I haven't been to Monterey in a long time. I used to love Monterey. I used to see all the little otters in the water in Monterey. I don't have to ask nobody. I can get in my car, put some gas in it, get on the highway, and go to Monterey.
I love that for you. Yes. I love that. Yes. I love that. It's such a wonderful adventure, and I love that you are, pushing fear aside and being like, so what? So what are you looking forward to now? You turn 59, you're having this, having some really great adventures. What are you looking forward to in these next years of life?
Really going places. I'm looking forward to going places and to doing my best creative work. Those are the two things. I want to be places and I want to do my best creative work.
I love that.
I'm recently back from the Philippines, from Manila and Bataan, and to say it was a life-changing trip is to minimize it completely.
Yeah.
I spent 2.5 weeks in New Hampshire. I had the time of my life around some of the most amazing people that I've ever met, creative people. I was at a residency there, and I had put applying to that off for years. Finally decided I'm applying. There's no reason why I shouldn't get it. I got it.
Yes.
And I want to do my best creative work. I am not going to tolerate, and haven't been for the last year since I moved back to California, really, things that take away from me doing my best creative work. I feel like I'm doing some of the best storytelling of my life right now. I have not just the time, but the inclination to think. I have the luxury of years of experience, of talking to people, of reading, of listening, of watching, of going places, of seeing things, and being able to put that all in a sentence or a story or whatever. The joy, it's awful on some days because you're writing about awful things sometimes, but the joy that it brings me to just know things and be able to communicate things based on the life and experiences that I've had and continue to have, it makes me happy.
Two of our words at Honey Child are desire and pleasure. We define them very expansively. Anything that you want and anything that makes you feel good. So tell us one of your deepest desires at this age.
Does it have to be reasonable?
No, the more unreasonable, the better.
Okay, so I really wouldn't mind going to culinary school.
Oh,
I have a desire. I do. I love to cook. I love to cook so much. It brings joy. It's creative. I love to eat. And I have taken some classes over the years.
And what does pleasure seeking look like for you?
Something that has to do with physicality. Like, I want to feel some sun on my body. I want to eat some really good food. I want to drink some really good scotch.
Yeah, the senses and the very sensual nature of it.
That's what I like. I like touching, feeling, like that kind of thing. That's what You want to add some romance to that? That makes it even cuter. But yeah, that's what it is for me. I want to feel things, like actually feel like having your toes in the sand, you know, like sometimes even just like combing my dog's hair, like, because she's so happy. I could, with my husband, just honestly putting some moisturizer on his face, because he doesn't do it.
But it's like such an act of love and the touch.
It is. And to see him just saying like, so moisturizer moisturizes. Yes, it does, Mr. Light Skin. It does. You need to invest in it. But do you know what I mean? Like just touching, like some of that is just so, we don't live on the beach, but we live maybe not that far from the beach. And, you can smell the ocean, especially in the morning before traffic starts and all that. And these are the things that are like, ooh, just the gratitude that I have.
Well, the name of our show is It's Good Over Here. So tell us, what's something that is getting better for you now, especially in this 59th year?
Saying the difficult thing, stating this is, I'm good at doing it when I'm writing. I can literally say, just say the true thing, Danielle. That's what's going to be the good sentence. Right? But yet applied to my personal life, sometimes I don't say the true thing.
Yeah. Well, it's hard.
It is. It's getting better for me now.
And what do you swear by as a honey? It could be a ritual, a routine, a beauty product, something cultural. What do you swear by?
I swear by too much oil in your hair. I do.
But your hair always looks good.
Girl, it's got to put too much oil in it.
Well, that's the secret.
I do. I swear by all hair condiments. That's what I call them. Girl, I have drawers, I have cabinets, I have the tops of counters.
And don't use half of them.
Don't, girl. Here's the thing, though, about me. I'm telling you, I use all of it.
Oh, okay.
And have the colorist that I swear by. For me, the routine is, if there is some oil, I'm putting it in my hair. On my ends, on my scalp, olive oil, coconut oil, I don't care.
That's hilarious to me.
I do, though. Because I feel like you read things, it's like you're putting how to wash out all the product. I'm like, not trying to wash out the product. And washing out no product. I definitely don't want to wash out this color so y'all can see this gray. So
your hair always looks good.
Thank you so much.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for this amazing interview. I feel like I learned so much about you. But I also learned more about me in addition in conversation with you. And I'm also just appreciative of always your honesty. You've always been honest. I know you say it can be hard to articulate the truth, but I feel like you've always been very upfront. And so I always have appreciated that about you.
That means a lot to me.
Yeah. But also I'm just inspired, honey. You're going on adventures, and just this zest that you have for life, it's palpable. I can feel it. And I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you, Felicia.
So thank you for being on It's Good Over Here. So where can the people find you? Where can the honeys find you? And what do you want to share, talk about that we should look out for?
Well, one, thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's always a joy talking to you. I was telling your team that when I moved back to California, you were literally among the first 5 people that I called.
And I appreciate that.
So thank you. And I think one of the reasons that I'm truthful with you is because you inspire that.
Oh, I appreciate that.
So it does matter who you're talking to. Now, where you can find me, you can always find me at Danamo, DANAMO, and that's pretty much across socials. I do have a newsletter called Shine Bright HQ.
Yes.
You can find that at Substack, but just Google my name and newsletter and it should come right on up. My website is like Danyel Smith Writer. That's where you can find all my stories. And most of the time these days I'm writing for the New York Times Magazine. And
so look for the byline there. Look for that Danyel Smith.
Absolutely. And my podcast is, what's the best way to, it's on hiatus. Let's call it that.
Yes.
It's
Black Girl
Songbook.
Yes. And we love your podcast, and we can't wait for the next iteration to return.
Aside from all my other little projects and stuff, those are the main ways to find me and to keep up with what's going on with me. And please do.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of It's Good Over Here, a celebration of how good life can get on the other side of 40. This podcast is a Honey Child thing, so don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at It's Honey Child. Visit our website, honey-child.com, and subscribe to our bi-weekly newsletter, A Taste of Honey. And for bonus podcast content and other exclusive Honey Dip stories, subscribe to our Patreon, which is Pay What You Wish, and join the Honeycomb. See you next time, honeys. Hey, honeys, have you signed up for our newsletter? A Taste of Honey delivers right to your inbox bi-weekly and is full of honey news, conversation, and shenanigans. Sign up now at honey-child.com. That's honey-child.com.